Hi everybody, Laura here for Concord 9th. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to walk you through the new April 2025 release. Hello and welcome to the introduction to the Birdhouse Blossoms bundle. This includes the Birdhouse Blossoms dies, the Birdhouse Blossoms stamp set, and the Birdhouse Blossoms embossing folder. So all these three can work together. They can also work individually. So I'm going to show you the die set first. The Birdhouse Blossom dies. The back of the packaging shows you how you can build a birdhouse. There's two different birds. You can add texture using the Birdhouse Blossoms embossing folder. You get that wood grain texture to your birdhouse, and then there's several sentiments. There's also a little mini birdhouse that you can stamp. Here I've stamped you one to show you. You've got the solid triangle for the birdhouse and then the trim for the roof and the base. For sentiments, we have the nicest day, stay cozy, sending warm wishes, to new beginnings, happy holidays, welcome home, hello, you feel like home. And some of these fit great in a little sentiment banner that's included in the die set. So those arched sentiments fit perfectly on the arched banner die. See, I stamped one here, sending warm wishes, but these other ones will work too, to new beginnings, happy holidays, and welcome home. Okay, so now for all the dies, I've die cut them all to show you. Here you have your birdhouse base, your trim, your roof, all those I did out of craft and dark brown cardstock. There's also a little, what do you call that, peg that allows for a bird to stand on it. Several different leaves and foliage and twigs that you can layer up and mix and match in a variety of ways. There's also little berry buds. I'm not sure what they're called, but you can put those on the stems. You can also put them on the little branch die cut. There's different types of blooms that you could layer up and mix and match with color combinations. Little tiny florals, little floral centers. Sorry, my camera's going in and out of focus here with my hand getting in the way. But like I said, you could take those little berries and put them on the end of this branchy stem for a different look too. By the way, I cut those out of wild berry cardstock. Now for the birds, there's two different kinds of birds. One's kind of a stubby, chubby bird. And you can layer them up, mix and match the colors. There's a little teeny eyeball, and there's also a little teeny beak. So I did that one. It's kind of like a robin, I would say. Now here's one that's kind of like a cardinal. I did poppy and cranberry, and then here's the beak. I believe that is, I never can tell sunflower from honeycomb. It's one of those yellows for the beak. And then for the eye, it has this whole eye thingy, like an eye mask that fits around the bird. You know when the bird has all that black area? You can also do an additional black eyeball. Another thing I like to do is take a white gel pen and just make a little dot on the eyeball. It gives a little something something. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to add texture to your birdhouse. First, you're going to want to die cut it. Now, for the embossing folder, one side has that hole, like the hole that the bird goes in, and it dips down in there. That's the part I use. The other side is kind of raised. I like the one that dips down in. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you can do this depending on which way you want your wood grain to go. So first you just kind of line up the birdhouse, and then you line up your trim, your roof, your base. It's easy to do. You could also add a little Post-it tape if you want to hold it in place. I didn't find that I needed to do that. You just have to be careful. You definitely don't want to sneeze at this point or breathe heavy or laugh. I don't want to make you laugh. Okay, get it lined up. Carefully close the embossing folder, and then you can see here if you've got it lined up correctly. And pinch that puppy shut. I'm going to take it off camera, run it through my die cutting machine, and then I'll show you the texture. It's really cool. Look at that. You could even go over this with a little, brown ink and really emphasize that wood grain, and then you got the wood grain on the trim. So sometimes I don't know which side is which, like where the bumps go out or the bumps go in. I think there's no wrong answer here. It's just whatever you prefer. So you could flip these around. I don't know. I think it's customizable. So there's your textured birdhouse. It's delightful. And then you can zhuzh it up with all the blooms, the foliage, the blossoms. I created 3 cards here. I had a heyday. Here's a little shape card. I made a birdhouse shape card. I added some yellow blossoms, some foliage in different colors. I even did some of the foliage out of vellum. I added a grapefruit and sorbet chubby stubby bird. And this one here, this is a larger card. It's more like, what, 5 by 6 or something, to allow for all that sprigs and sprays of foliage. But I love the bright red and blue. And I did texture on this birdhouse. This one here just has the stamped birdhouse with the stamp set, die cut heart, little blossom. On the background, I used an older embossing folder. It's called Tea Blossom, and it gave a great floral texture to the background. And that is the introduction to the Birdhouse Blossoms bundle. Hello, and welcome to the introduction to the Hugs and Friend dies. So this is a great word die set. It's called Hugs and Friend. Fabulous size. It spells out friend and hugs with the shadow backer. The back of the packaging shows you the layout. I've die cut them to show you for size. And you could definitely, customize this with different colors of solid color cardstock or ink blending. You could pop up the letters for added dimension. Here I just glued them flat onto the shadow backer. The shadow backer really helps in getting good placement, especially with the friend, because it's a kind of a unique layout. But if you wanted to just use the letters without the shadow backer, you could really do any layout that you want. You don't have to do that stacked friends. You could spell it out straight across a card. Here's a couple cards that I've created showcasing these. Here I did the hugs with matte gold and vellum. That background is using the tiled turnabout, and I stripped it up. Here is the tiled turnabout again, and I did each letter in rainbow order because that is just how it is meant to be. I love that stacked friend layout. Here's another one, sea glass with eucalyptus. The background is the pattern play die set, and that is the introduction to the Hugs and Friend dies. for layouts and color combinations. Now I'm going to show you a couple cards that I've created. These might be my favorite of the release, and I just love this one here. This floral arrangement just screams happy. The colors, the pinks, the reds, the yellows, all the different foliage. I stamped a sentiment up in the top right, sending good thoughts and big hugs. I love that. I did zhuzh those petals up to the high heavens. Now here's a simple one. No texture, just white petals. I did some of the little fancy schmancy things here out of vellum, and then added a yellow dot and embossed a white sentiment onto, is it juniper? Cardstock with a eucalyptus background. Sweet and simple, clean and crisp. And that is the introduction to the Paper Posy bundle. Hello and welcome to the introduction to the Pattern Play dies. This is a fantastic geometric pattern play die set. So there's a large 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch die, and then all the little fun shapes that fit in to the pattern. And on the edge, there's not a die there, so it's not going to cut out the edge of your cardstock. So you could die cut that into the front of a card if you wanted to add that texture. Okay, so the back of the packaging shows you how you can add your patterns, mix and match your colors for endless possibilities. So I've die cut everything to show you. First up is the panel. So I trimmed a panel of white cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch, ran it through, and you could leave it like that just for a textured background with a geometric pattern, or you can add all the little die cuts. And I'm just going to talk and add and play with patterns. So I did a variety, an array of Concord 9th cardstock. I was just pulling out willy-nilly scraps and thought, let's see how it ends up. I used honeysuckle, nectar, blueberry, avocado, buttercup, and on, and poppy and whatever. But if you didn't want it, you could do, maybe only choose 3 colors. Like the back of the packaging, it kind of stuck to more of like a 3-tone. Of course, you know me, I like to use as much color as humanly possible. And so you can fit these in. It's like putting together a puzzle. They all fit. Is this like what you call one of those roadmap die sets that are so popular right now, when it just kind of spells it out for you, so you don't have to think, you don't have to worry, and you can really just, you could make this for Christmas with reds and greens. You can make it patriotic. You can make it fall, pastels for summer, jewel tones for the winter. You could do it with a variety of grays and browns for neutrals or earth tones. The possibilities are endless. So there is the pattern play with all the little geometric, colorful little shapes. And here's a couple cards that I've created. First, I put together the one here on the right with all the bells and whistles. I used the Hugs die from the Hugs and Friend die set and added some clear sequins. This one's really busy, but I think it's super fun. And then for this one, I isolated one shape, that big fat petal, and I did it with a bunch of rainbow solid color cardstock and made a wreath shape. I stamped a sentiment and used the die both from the Paper Posy bundle, and that is the introduction to the Pattern Play dies. Hello and welcome to the introduction to the Petal Print stencil pack. This is a beautiful floral layering stencil set. There are 4 stencils measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. The back of the packaging shows you how it fits an entire panel measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So I'm going to give you a little demonstration, but first I want to show you what each individual stencil looks like. There's 2 that layer the stems and the leaves, and 2 that layer the florals, like the outer and the center. So I have a panel of white cardstock here measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, holding it down with a little Post-it tape. They are numbered. I'm going to go in numerical order. I don't know that it really matters. There are little registration marks on the corners, so you know exactly how to line up your A2 panel. Again, holding it down with Post-it tape. I'm going to start with Sprout for my first layer of stems and leaves. Okay, so you could do different colors. You can do gradient. You want to make the bottom darker green, fade it up to lighter green. You could also use pastes. This would be fantastic. So I'm just going to do 2 shades of green. The first stencil with Sprout, the second stencil with Parsley. Now, if you're at all intimidated by ink blending, or maybe you've never done a layering stencil, this is a great place to start. Very, very user-friendly, very forgiving. Not a lot of area to cover. Ends up with a gorgeous result. Makes you feel like $1,000,000. Okay. Place in stencil number 2, using those registration marks in the corner to line it up perfectly. And it's going to give you like a 2-tone leaf. So the top is Sprout and the bottom of the leaf is Parsley. And it just makes you look like you know what you're doing. I know Concord sells blender brushes, and I do have those. Those will work fabulous for this. I pulled out a large brush because I feel like I can cover a lot of area quickly, especially when I'm doing demonstration. I do love to use a large brush, less effort. Okay, so there's your Sprout and your Parsley leaves. Now I'm lining up the large blooms, again using the registration marks. I'm going to start with Ballet Slipper, a very light, soft, subtle pink, and just going over that area. Now Ballet Slipper is very, very light, so I did kind of really had to put my elbow in there and really go full throttle. Might want to pick a slightly darker color if you don't want to work so hard. Also, maybe my ink pad is just getting old. I know I've actually had to replace some ink pads because I wore them out. That's how much I love my Concord 9th inks. It wasn't enough to re-ink them. I actually wore out the ink pad itself. Okay, that's the 3rd stencil. We're on to the last one, which is just the floral centers. And by the way, don't worry. I think my ink pads were, well, they were as old as when they first came out. That's how long I've had them. This honeysuckle is a brand new ink pad. It's very juicy. I can definitely tell the difference. So every once in a while, it's nice to get a new ink pad. If I can tell I'm blending with less effort, getting a really vibrant, saturated result. Also, you just buy the re-inkers. But hey, anywho, look how this looks. Ballet Slipper, Honeysuckle, Sprout, and Parsley. All you need is to put this on a card base and add a sentiment, and you are ready to go. I'm going to show you a couple cards that I created using the Petal print stencil. So the one that I just demonstrated here, I added a hello sentiment from the tiled Turnabout die set, a few sparkling clear sequins. I did that out of matte gold and vellum. This card features several brand new ink colors. I did Harbor, Lakefront, Pimento, and Brickyard. For the sentiment, I used So Many Sayings bundle, embossing it in white onto Lakefront cardstock. And that is the introduction to the Petal print stencil pack. Hello, and welcome to the introduction to the So Many Sayings stamp set and So Many Sayings dies. This is one large stamp set that stamps all these sentiments in one shebang, as well as one large die that cuts them all out. So for sentiments, there's many to choose from. So happy for you. Congratulations. Best friend ever. Thinking of you. Happy birthday. You got this. I adore you. Miss you. And then this is a different font. Thank you so much. So grateful for you. Hip hip hooray. You're doing great. I'm so sorry. You are loved. Well done. Good luck. And then another font. You make me smile. Happy anniversary. Best day ever. And here for you. And these are outlined or like with a block around them. So 3 different fonts, 3 different looks. Stamp them or emboss them all at once. I'm going to show you just a quick little demo, just because I love you. Okay, I just want to show you how this is one big, large stamp. Think of the possibilities. So I'm just going to stamp this with Dove ink. It's kind of a neutral gray. Sometimes when you don't want black, you just want something different. Spice it up with a little Dove. Okay, so I ink this up. It stamps like butter on the first try. I didn't even need to double stamp it. Okay, so now, and by the way, that's just a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel of white cardstock. I'm going to take the die, the So Many Sayings die, and just make sure you got it right side up. You'll know when everything lines up, and just try to center it. Now I have the Anna Griffin Impress, so it holds it down with a magnet, but I am going to use a little bit of Post-it tape just to keep her steady, because I don't want her shifting during the die cutting. Now look at how this cut. I did not use a metal shim. Cut like butter. and they're all centered. You could almost cry. And now I'm going to do a few while I have it all out. I'm not going to show you, but I will show you one more because I love you. I'm going to emboss one because I know if you're like me, you're like, oh, it's too much to emboss. It's too big. I'm going to emboss the whole shebang in white on black cardstock. So I'm prepping it with a powder tool because honestly, these are my favorites. I love the white on black because I do a lot of colorful cards, and a white on black sentiment really pops. It like pops you right in the face. But you could also do it on the Concord solid color cardstock, emboss it in white on any color that coordinates with your project. So I inked that up with Versamark ink, pouring on some white embossing powder, and then while I'm doing this, by the way, I've got my heat gun prepping, warming up, and I like to put this on a glass mat so it doesn't warp my grip mat. Okay, got them embossed. Use the die, line it up. It's really easy too. Those bottom sentiments have that white line around them, which makes lining up the die even easier. If you get that right around the outline, you know you've got it centered. Look at all these sentiments I have. The white on black, the dove on white. I even did a round of black on white. So I've got lots of neutral options to choose from. I'll show you a couple projects that I've created using the So Many Sayings products. They kind of went with the whole release. Here I did this on the new color. I embossed it in white on lakefront cardstock. Here I stamped this with the new plumberry onto white cardstock. And I just coordinated it with my cards. And that is the introduction to the new So Many Sayings stamp set and So Many Sayings dies. Hello and welcome to the introduction to the Tiled Turnabout stamp set and tiled dies. Another unique Turnabout in the Turnabout collection. You know Concord 9th is known for their Turnabout stamps. This one is unique as always, and there are some individual images. For sentiments we have good luck, hello, you're pretty great, I love you very much, and thank you. And then on the back it shows you what it looks like when you stamp it once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times, and you rotate it. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. As far as dies, here is the tiled dies, and I've die cut them to show you. So what these are, you have 2 word dies, hello and thanks. I did those out of white and solid color cardstock. For the images, I stamped the individual images that are in the tiled Turnabout stamp set. So there's this floral one. There's a couple of different options of leaves and foliage, some small little blooms, which I did out of poppy and buttercup. I did that leaf out of parsley, and then I used the coordinating dies to cut them out. Okay, I have a panel of white cardstock already loaded in the jig with the tiled Turnabout positioned and ready to go. I'm inking it up with the first round with parsley ink, and a lot of times I like to use this little stamp jig thingamajiggy. Helps you get even pressure, and every once in a while, if you don't get a good, coverage, you might have to stamp it twice to make it nice. Okay, so I'm stamping parsley twice using the old stamp jig, or is it called a Chucky tool? I can't remember. And then you're going to rotate it. So in the top corner of the jig, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can keep track of the order. So I had it on 1, I rotated it to 2, and now I'm inking up with the brand new Starfruit ink. And this looks fabulous with parsley. I'm doing kind of a earthy green color combination here. Now Starfruit is nice and juicy because it's a very new ink pad, so I only needed to stamp it once. I'm going to rotate it, so now the 3 is in the top right corner. Clean my stamp, inking it up this time with eucalyptus. I feel like eucalyptus, for lack of a better description, is kind of a dusty tealy green. And yeah, I mean, I think that Greg from Concord 9th, he likes his dusty colors. Now, but when I stamped this, I felt like there wasn't enough distinction between eucalyptus and parsley. There wasn't enough contrast. So then I pulled out juniper. I did not rotate my panel. So this is juniper is gonna be stamped right over top of eucalyptus. you're seeing here trial and error, live in action. Sometimes if it doesn't work, you got to just keep at it. Now I feel like that juniper gave a better contrast with the parsley. So I'm going to rotate it. Now the 4 is in the top right corner. Clean the stamp. I'm going in with sea glass, which is very, very light, extremely light, because I think I need to get a new ink pad. Sea glass has been one of my most used colors over the years. I just love the soft subtleness of it. And I think a soft, subtle color is what I needed here because I had so much vibrancy going on, and it's perfect. Okay, so you've got the soft, subtle sea glass, juniper, parsley, and the brand new Stardust. Here's some more color combinations that I did to show you the variation. This one here features pink lemonade, 4 rotations onto pink lemonade cardstock. Here's sea glass on a white cardstock panel, very subtle. This one here is Briar Rose cardstock, stamped with Briar Rose, eggplant, plumberry, and white pigment ink. Love this color combination. Here's Nectar, stamped with nectar, sorbet, spice cider, I think, and white. And that is another great color combination. Here's a couple cards that I've created. I used several because I made several backgrounds. Here's that Briar Rose background. And I also used the tiled dies for that thanks word die with vellum and matte gold. I added a sub-sentiment from the So Many Sayings Stampin' Dies with a few clear sequins. So this is a great patterned thank you card. Here I isolated one floral image from the tiled stamp set and stamped it multiple times with different colors of ink. And I used the Nuvo drops to add the white centers. You could also use white enamel dots. I embossed a sentiment from the Paper Posy Stampin' Die set. And then here I used that pink lemonade on pink lemonade for the background. I used the Friend die from the Hugs and Friend die set. And then lastly, I did the sea glass on white, very, very subtle, stripped it up on the background and added the hugs from the Hugs and Friend die set. And that is the introduction to the tiled Turnabout stamp set and tiled dies.